8 years ago. In fact, it was against the backdrop of the build-up to go to war in Iraq, and there was a lot of pressure to get on board and to have your patriotism questioned if you didn't. With 2020 hindsight, someday another president is going to come to Congress and want authorization to go to war. And assuming that it's not a situation of just unprovoked aggression against the United States, a la Pearl Harbor or something, that there's room for wondering whether that's the right decision. What are the lessons of 8 years ago? As a senator, what would you do to try and make sure that the case was really the case to commit American military power had really been made?
I think that I would be very, very skeptical of any war of choice. Any war of choice. And the lesson is that I remember 2002 so well. I mean, the environment, President Bush's approval rating was at 85%. He was coming into campaign against me. He had such, the country was really moving with his philosophy at that time. And calm discretion didn't prevail. I remember that the president about that time went in front of the United Nations and said that Iraq was on the verge of acquiring a nuclear weapon. There was a time. There was a time. Think back to the famous story about the Bay of Pigs, when the Secretary of State needed to show some evidence, I think, to the French president. He said, no, the word of the President of the United States is good for me. Not the Bay of Pigs, or the Cuban Missile Crisis, rather, I'm sorry. But the lesson is that the Senate has a job to do in making certain that the intelligence that's claimed is right, is true. And before we commit our young men and women to military action, you need to take a look at those issues and think long and hard. And is it a war of necessity, or is it a war of choice? And a war of choice would be met with the highest skepticism on my part.
Mr. Conway, this past week, President Bush received from Congress the approval of the resolution he was looking for going to war possibly, or taking initiatives against Iraq. Still waiting out there, the United Nations resolution. Should this country move ahead without United Nations support, or should we wait? How do you feel on that issue?
I support the President on Iraq. I support our Commander-in-Chief in the area of foreign affairs. I'm glad we went through this process. President Bush went to the Congress. He asked for authorization to continue the war on terror by going into Iraq. I'm glad we had the process with Congress. I'm glad that Congress asked him to work with our strategic international partners. He asked him to work with the UN. I think we should go to the UN, get as many partners as we can, hopefully the entire Security Council, and then move forward against Saddam Hussein. You have to reach across the aisle in situations like this, and I would have been among the 40% of Democrats that voted for the resolution on Iraq.